we've been reading the book of Corrie Ten Boom, and going through some of the things she's writing about, going through her experiences before the war and in the war, the Second World War, and just how um, how life was so different back then. It gives you a perspective, a unique perspective, I think, of especially when you read different biographies of different people, different Christians throughout history who really needed to rely on God for just their lives, their daily, the more, it seems like the more trouble that came into the lives of these people, whoever they may be, like even Corey here, the one we're reading, it seems that their relationship with the Lord became more real. Because I find that as Christians, we have such a head knowledge Christianity. We seem to know exactly the right answer for everything in all these situations, and we have so much theology crammed into our little brains, and we think we are so smart. But when it comes down to the difficulties of life, when everything falls apart, when you look in these stories and when you see how slowly, well, not even slowly, how life was kind of normal. I mean, they're struggling, they don't have much to begin with, and it's a flip of a switch, and things can change so quickly and so rapidly that you're from one week to the next, it's like your country is in war, and so this is like in the story of Corrie Ten Boom, and they saw evil was coming, but they never thought it would reach their little country. They were always told that they were neutral, and they weren't going to engage in the war. But I mean, at that time, Hitler wanted to attack Austria. I guess it was a good outposting. I think it was the Netherlands. Anyways, he wanted to attack them because it was a good station to go attack Britain from. But anyhow, when things get difficult, that is when our faith is tested. What are we going to do? Are we quickly going to turn away, or are we going to cling to what we've been saying we cling to this whole time? You realize that so many of the things that we do and that we have, the way that we are raised in this Western society, in this Western world, is just so incredibly selfish. I think that's the best word I can put to it. So much is about self, about preserving ourselves. And it is not selfless, it is selfish. And every fiber within us wants to say, well, I'm not selfish, like I do this and that. And quickly those defenses come up. But, when we look deep down inside and we look the way we live, the luxuries that we have, all the things that we take for granted, we are quite selfish. It's interesting to ponder life in light of some of these biographies of some of these people who have literally nothing, very little, and actually when things get really difficult, everything is taken away. Like they have nothing left. Like Corrie and her sister and her father, they were forced out of their homes because they were hiding Jewish people, and they were part of a underground, which hid, which helped and hid people, and when they were caught, they were dragged away, and they had nothing left, and they were thrown in basically a cell, and her father had died, and her sister, right now at the point we're reading, is alive yet, and anyways, just when you start to think of those things and to think that our world could change very quickly too. I think we are in a time, we always tend to think that things will get back to normal. Things are going to, go back in the groove. The world always goes through these things. I think we have turned a page in history. The things of this world are not going to just go back to normal. I think there's a new type of normal coming. Even though things may seem like they're going to kind of bend back towards a certain way, I believe we have changed, turned a chapter in time. I'm just remembering the words of Jesus, where he talks in Matthew 24, and he says, when you see these things come, this generation will not pass away before all these things are fulfilled. And I thought of that many times. What generation is he talking about? And I believe this generation is our generation. I believe in 1948, where Israel became a nation, I think that was one of the key markers which almost began the time clock of this generation, and these things that are happening in that time. So yeah, I think the world is rapidly heading towards a system and a place of biblical prophecy, where things are being fulfilled in a very quick and fast manner. I mean, the enemy always wants to speed things up, it seems, throughout history. Even in the time of Hitler, he set everything up. Basically, Hitler could have been the Antichrist. He was a type of an Antichrist, but things in the world stage were not set yet. The Jewish people having their homeland is a major fulfillment of prophecy. And they're basically the only people after 2,000 years without an identity, to keep their identity, to not be assimilated into the rest of the world and then becoming a nation. God always talked about gathering his nation together in the end, and it was done in 1948. And so when you look at the events, and when you look at even Israel being attacked so many different times throughout after it became a nation, and the world cheering for the opposite side, they miraculously would win again and again and again against enemies coming in against them, trying to destroy them, but they somehow won. And that's because in Zechariah, God says that in those days, he is going to fight for them, and they will be a fire pot among the nations. And you see that today, God is fighting for his people. They are a fire pot among the nations. They're not easily pushed around. And when they get attacked, they somehow win. And their war, the war methods are studied by countries and how on earth they won, and they try and learn from it, but sometimes it just doesn't make any sense. And that's because God fights for his people. And so I think, we're more at a critical time where the world really is trying to unite under saying, well, we gotta protect the planet. We have this pandemic. We're in a global financial crisis. We gotta come together. There's so much evidence pointing to something biblical, like the forces of this world, like the forces of evil are pushing their agenda hard. But we must also realize that this is coming. And I think, and I wonder sometimes, this last generation, if it begins around 1948, I don't like setting dates, but if you think a generation would be 2048, would be around a generation. So like, we are in 2020, and there's a lot of things that can happen in a very short time, and the world is definitely more ripe than ever to have fulfillment of a one world government or a one world currency or a one world rule. That's not far-fetched at all. And I mean, people are conditioned to almost want that. They're conditioned to look at superhero type people and elevate them to a place, I mean, there's an agenda being pushed in videos wanting people to see that, there's some kind of savior going to come with superpowers to save the world. And I mean, it may seem far-fetched, but it's conditioning the mind to accept some person who has supernatural ability. And the Antichrist is going to have supernatural ability. It says that he makes great signs and wonders, and he deceives, the people of the world. And yeah, so like, there are so many things just to ponder and think about. We can always say, well, things are going to jump right back to normal. I don't think so. I think we've turned a page in history and time, and this going forward, I mean, things could look very different in the next 10 years in this world. And the global unity that the Bible so talks about thousands of years ago, I think is more and more going to become a reality in our lifetimes, and many of our lifetimes. And even though it is a scary time to live in, it is not, because we know that God is in control of all these things. And yet, we need to be a praying people and asking the Lord for wisdom and guidance in these things of life. Because, when we pray, things happen. And there's awesome power in prayer. And I see that in the book of Corrie ten Boom. So many times, God answers specific prayers that are prayed. If we never pray them, well, those things aren't going to happen. And especially those specific things, to blind a soldier's eye if he's going through your things that you don't want him to see something, or, there's just so many specific prayers that God answers in his people. And I think God delights when we ask him and come to him and realize that we can't do it. We need him. And he delights in that, and he delights to help his people. He says, you're worth far more than many sparrows, you're worth more than sparrows. He says, the numbers of your head, the hair on your head are numbered. I mean, he loves us so much, and he's not going to thrust us into this alone. He's with us, he's within us if we are his children. And so, yeah, just some of the things I've been pondering lately, and just want to make a short little video, which is not super short. May you be encouraged and blessed.